Is there an actual possibility that Dawn Staley leaves South Carolina to become the head coach of the New York Knicks? I cannot believe we are having this conversation, but there is smoke, not fire, but there is smoke. We talk about it next. Locked on Gamecocks starts right now.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Locked On Gamecocks. I'm your host, Chris Marler, and thank you for joining us for the first episode of July. And thank you for everyone making Locked On Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Remember, we're a free and available podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Listen, I keep telling you guys, if you have not joined already, now is as good a time as any, because right now, if you sign up for FanDuel, download the app, or go to FanDuel.com, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Go to FanDuel.com today. All right. This is not something I had on my bingo card. I saw this on Sunday, I want to say, and thought it was kind of cool. Didn't give it a ton of thought. And that was that Dawn Staley was just being considered or mentioned or in the conversation with the New York Knicks front office as they look for a new head coach. So this would be unprecedented. Obviously, it would be historical and groundbreaking and all those things. I also don't know if it would even be the best career choice for Dawn Staley. It would probably pay a lot more, right? Now, listen, by all means, it would make a lot of sense for a lot of coaches at most levels, where most of the times the goal is to not end in college. It's to either be an NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, like a coach at the highest level. As we've seen over and over and over again, especially with college football, sometimes that dream is not for everybody. And dealing with NBA players, contracts, personalities, egos, it's a lot different than the college game. Now, she knows all that, obviously. And it's not like she's in a bad situation or a situation where she would even necessarily feel like she's stuck or needs something new or anything that would kind of jolt her out of this position she's currently in Columbia. She just signed a contract extension during last season. She should be here from 20 till I believe it's 2029 or 2031. And it's also makes her the highest paid women's basketball coach in the country, starting at, I think it was like around $4 or 4.25 million. And then it goes up by $250,000 every single year. And she'll be making over $5 million, which would also make her one of the highest paid men's basketball coaches in the country as well. So there's a lot of reasons to stay. The money, I don't think, would be an issue. You look at NBA coaching contracts, it feels like in the NBA, a head coach especially nowadays, like Phil Jackson is gone. Like gone are those days. It feels like there might not be a less respected position or authority from a coaching standpoint in the world of sports than the NBA head coach. Now, that being said, they still get paid pretty well. The average salary is around $7 million per year, which would obviously be an increase for her, about 40 to 50% of what she's making now. But here's the other part of it too. She would be going to New York, prime market, Madison Square Garden, an incredible, incredible dream for a lot of people. But she would be leaving what is arguably the best setup for success in the entire country, not just in women's basketball, but you could argue it in any sport. And now with the way NIL is going to be working in the house settlement, and you're having even more money at your disposal and resources at your disposal to go get more recruits. You heard Kim Mulkey last year bring up the joke about she's got 10 McDonald's All-Americans. How do you defend that? I mean, all she has done since she's been here is win 4 national titles, routinely put girls in the NBA, or I'm sorry, the WNBA, and usually pretty high overall picks, if not the number one overall pick. I mean, she has been successful at every single facet of the job. Recruiting, winning, on the court, off the court. She's become a star. You could be a star in New York. You absolutely could be a star in New York, but you will also be part of just the most criticism under a microscope at every single thing you do, every turn, every decision you make, all that kind of stuff. I don't see a world where she takes this job necessarily. I will tell you, having the only female college head coach that's being interviewed for a position like that is pretty cool. And it's only going to help recruiting. It's only going to help her relationship with her players and the community and like recruits in the future and all that stuff, donors, boosters, everything. The new AD. Now when she makes the announcement that she's going to come back, I don't think that she would take the job. But like I said, to even be in that circle of possible candidates is an incredible accomplishment. So yeah, there you go. The ties there is what was the most concerning. I'm recording this on Tuesday afternoon, and you're starting to hear some murmurs come out from around the New York Knicks and the NBA saying that she's probably not going to be a finalist. It was a great interview, but it doesn't seem like she's going to be included in the final names that are being mentioned for the hiring. Now, that being said, there was a lot of smoke to this, way more than I was comfortable with having to read, because just the ties from the front office and with her, coaches she was mentored by at past stops and people she knows very well, not only from her playing career, but also her coaching career and being in this arena of basketball, whether it be professionally or in college. She had a lot of ties to that job, way more than I would have ever thought. And you look around the NBA too, like the Knicks aren't getting any better. They're not getting any younger. I know that they made a decent run. I think they made the Eastern Conference semifinals this year. But either way, having someone like this come in and hearing the phrase that we need someone that can turn this around and win right away, and it's Dawn Staley. Pretty big feather in the cap, not only for Dawn Staley, but also for the University of South Carolina and the athletic departments. But like I said, I would be shocked. And also, who would be the next coach? Hopefully not Muschamp. I'll say that. All right. Listen, when we come back, we're going to be talking about some recruiting. And it's a massive, massive week for recruiting. Not necessarily for South Carolina, but there are several key targets that they are in play for this upcoming week, including one that will make his announcement, Noah Clark, on Wednesday, that kicks off an incredible week where 26 kids will announce their college choice. We'll talk about that and what you need to watch out for this upcoming week in terms of recruiting right after this. All right, guys, welcome back into the second part of our first episode of July. I appreciate you guys joining us. And before we get started, I do want to give a quick shout out to our friends at FanDuel. Listen, summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, high-stakes soccer action, whatever, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. If you're already following the action, why not make it a little more thrilling? And you can do so with FanDuel, and everything is right at your fingertips. You can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach and win some money all along the way. Listen, I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, betting trends especially, and historical data going into this upcoming college football season. Also, I've been looking at a couple of prop bets for the hot dog eating competition on Friday. That might be a cry for help, but oh well. I have my friends at FanDuel that have bets and props and everything in between, all you can imagine. Go to FanDuel.com, download the app as well. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, let's get back into, it's been a crazy topic. Just it doesn't slow down at all. Recruiting, especially in the SEC. But right now, June has become the most action in recruiting. It's like what used to be signing day. The amount of players that have committed in the month of June all over the country, for one, and the amount that are going to commit this week as well, it's kind of staggering. It's staggering. So it's fun, I feel like, when you can see an actual calendar in place for college football because everything is so in disarray and not really well thought out. Recruiting, especially, you have like the late signing day now, which is what used to be the main signing day in February. Then you have early signing day in December. The portal's open like a week before that. It is a mess, and it's nice that at least sometimes these coaches get a break and can hone in June, maybe take a little bit of downtime in July. But the biggest name for this week you need to know for South Carolina, Noah Clark. Obviously, you missed out yesterday on PJ Dean. Listen, PJ Dean, I talked to a friend of mine that covers Georgia very closely and very well. And I sent him a text and I said, listen, trying to figure out how to record this show. Kind of want to get a head start on it. What are you hearing about Dean? I might just knock this out beforehand if I can. Saying that mostly tongue in cheek because I was just trying to get an answer out of him and figure out what he knew. But he did not respond until about 2 or 3 hours after the commitment. What he said to me was, if I would have responded and seen this before he made his announcement, I would have 1,000% said South Carolina. What I was told was up until 30 minutes prior to his actual ceremony and his announcement, he was going to South Carolina. Flat out, he was going to be a Gamecock, made up his mind. Glenn Schumann, the DC at Georgia, and one of the other coaches called him up, talked to him, changed his mind. That's when the quote came out about, do y'all even have room for me? Because of how many total defensive linemen they've signed, not just in this year's class, but last year as well. And they found room for him. And you're going to always try to find room when you can make sure you sign a top 100 4-star edge rusher like PJ Dean. And that's great. Good for Georgia. I still don't think that recruitment's closed yet, just to be honest. But now, moving forward, this week in college football recruiting, there are 26 commitments that are scheduled to be announced this week from premier blue chip players. That's just blue chip 4- and 5-star players. 4 5-stars are going to be committing, 11 top 100 players. The one that South Carolina is most interested and invested in, that is Noah Clark, the defensive lineman out of North Carolina. Listen, big get if you can pull this kid. He is, depending on which site you're looking at, he's a 4-star recruit, a consensus 4-star recruit. But depending on which site you're looking at, he's either a, top 150 player or he's a top 300 player. 247 Sports has him as a 126th ranked player in the country, 21st overall defensive lineman. 247 Composite has him at 284 and the 34th overall ranked defensive line prospect. Either way, it's a very, very good prospect. It's a 4-star recruit, and it's a position of need. So if you miss out on PJ Dean, which sucks, what do you do next? Well, you keep recruiting, and you hope that what you still have in play, which you still feel really good about. I brought this up on yesterday's episode. It sucks that you miss out on a couple of guys like Carter Meadows going to Michigan, PJ Dean going to Georgia. And it also sucks because it's like you felt like you had really good relationship with Meadows, and it feels like money might have been the main factor in that one as of right now. Dean, you feel like you had a really, really good chance to land him, and then the 11th hour kicks in and Georgia steals him away. That being said, this staff feels very, very confident in what they still have in place and what they feel like they have coming as well, which you look at some of the names that I'm not sure when their actual announcement and commitment dates are, but it should be in the next month or so. They feel good about Noah Clark. He's been crystal balled by 2 different people. Landon Duckworth is still, it feels like you have a commanding lead to land him, the 4-star quarterback, number 1 dual threat quarterback in the country. And then Tamarian Watkins, the safety, is a 3-star, I think, on most services, but still a very good player. And you feel good about landing all of those, right? All 3 of them. If you land those 3, that takes this class from 9 total commits to 12. And you go into summer workouts, fall camp with roughly half of what you need to fill out your signing class. And you also do it in a way where you would have, if you land those 3, of the 12 total players, 8 would be 4-stars. You also would have the number 1 ranked quarterback, dual threat quarterback in the country, several really good athletes, a great receiver, and really good pieces on the defensive side of the football, which is something you clearly need after what you lost last year. Now, the other part of that is that would mean 12 of the 26 total players that took official visits to South Carolina in June would ultimately end up committing to South Carolina. That's a pretty good clip, guys. That is, what is it? Divided by 2, so 6 divided by 13. I don't know. I should probably just use a calculator, but so it's basically around 50%. It's probably right around like 48% that you had on official visits, brought them on campus, brought them into the facilities, brought out the red carpet, all that kind of stuff, made your pitch, and you landed about half of them. And that's only from what has like that doesn't mean the 26 total have already committed either. That's just the targets that you have brought on campus. So getting Noah Clark, I feel like, would be a pretty big get for South Carolina, not just because he fits a need. He is a big-bodied defensive lineman, 6'4", 330. This is the scouting report. Massive human being that has checked in at over 6'4", 348 pounds, but weight has fluctuated. Brings valuable size, explosiveness, and power to a premium at the line of scrimmage position. Best suited as a two-gapping zero technique, Clark shows ability to shed blocks with explosive hands, can get upfield surprisingly well for his size, which is something Clayton White loves in this defense, where the production you had last year from your interior defensive line was incredible. Very raw athlete, NFL upside when you consider his size, athleticism, toughness to make plays behind the line, stout presence up front, can also bring value on passing downs, which is insane. Anyway, expect him to see the field early in his career at the next level. He's a big-time commodity up front for any program. He's taken officials to Notre Dame. He took an official to NC State. Also took one to Duke. But he's been crystal balled by two different people, with South Carolina being the place that they think he's going to land. You know what? Hold on. There's a third that has just been included today from Michael Clark, an NC State writer, who logged his prediction as we were filming this. So there you go. So it feels like a pretty good chance you're going to land him. The kid has 43 total offers from around the country. Very highly sought after recruit, and a massive. I mean, like, size that's incredible. So anyway, the biggest thing I think coming from landing Noah Clark is not the fact that you get a 4-star blue chip defensive lineman, and one that has a size already and athleticism that is unlike almost anyone else in the class and anyone else I've seen from this very, very deep defensive line class in the 2026 recruiting cycle. The most important part is you've been feeling pretty good this offseason, right? Spring ball was going pretty well. Did really well in the portal in December. You're coming off a fantastic season where you exceeded everyone's expectations. You're bringing back all these players. You have the NFL draft. You got all these pieces in place. You're finally getting a little bit more respect. That's very, very much deserved going into the season from national media, preseason magazines, all that kind of stuff. But the recruiting part of it has not been great in it, like from a volume standpoint. You've landed some great kids, but you just watched Georgia. I brought this up on yesterday's show. Georgia finished the month of June with 14 commitments in 29 days. I mean, they've caught fire more than like anyone, but you saw Bama kind of do the same thing. You saw Georgia do it. Notre Dame is another one as well. That's not going to happen for every school. So you can't have that be the expectation. But there was a little bit of not disappointment, but just kind of wish this was also going really, really well, right? Everything else seems to be going really well. Kind of wish that the recruiting was kind of, at this point, kind of paying for itself, right? Like after the way last season ended and everything you've seen and the pitches and all that kind of stuff, and you're in the running for, I feel like, more blue chip players, legitimately like in the running with the possibility of not making their Final Five, but a chance to actually land these kids more so than ever. And it feels like there's just been a little bit of wind left out or taken out of the sails in June, which is fine. Landing Noah Clark kind of gets that confidence back a little bit more, puts a smile back on the face, and then maybe that starts as a domino, starts knocking over the other dominoes like Landon Duckworth and Tamarian Watkins. And also, you're still very much in the running for several other really, really big time players. So this class, I still think, is on pace to be like the best in program history. I would not give up on PJ Dean yet. And again, landing a guy like Duckworth can pay off huge dividends, and just in terms of him being able to recruit other elite players. So hopefully Noah Clark tomorrow picks Carolina. Will give you your 10th commitment of this class, and then we'll see what happens from there. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back and close out the show with a little preview of a deep dive we're going to be doing tomorrow. All right, welcome back into Locked On Gamecocks. I appreciate you guys joining us today. It's been kind of just a odd show. I did not think that we were going to have to dive into the Dawn Staley stuff, but appreciate you guys joining us. We have a Media Days is in less than 2 weeks. They have not announced who is going to be represented at Media Days for South Carolina or any of the teams. But obviously Shane Beamer will be there. They'll be there the first day on Monday, along with Kiffin and Brian Kelly and LSU. I was thinking about this today in terms of like prepping for that. I put out a ranking of the top, where I would rank the SEC coaches 1 through 16. And I had Beamer around 8, which I feel like is fair. All right, we're going to save most of diving into this till tomorrow, since we have the graphic out and all that kind of stuff. But I had Beamer at 8, which I feel like diving into all the numbers is probably pretty fair. Hard to put him ahead of Drinkwitz, specifically because of what happened, 4 years in a row prior to last year. But behind Kiffin, obviously with that game as well, and Kiffin having 3, 10+ win seasons in the last 4 years, I think this is a exactly where he deserves to be and should be. If you guys think I'm wrong, feel free to let me know. But I will tell you this: I was looking at some of the numbers and where he ranks in comparison to other head coaches, not just in the SEC, from around the country. And CBS Sports put out an article about this today. I think it was Brad Crawford, actually, of every single Power 4 head coach's record against ranked opponents. And the amount of coaches that do not have a winning record against ranked opponents is staggering. I off the top of my head, I think it might be a total of 8 in the entire country that have 9 that have a record of 500 or more or better against top 25 teams from every single Power 4 conference. There isn't a single one in the Big 12. There's only 3 in the ACC, and one of them is at 500 exactly. There's 3 in the Big 10, and there's I believe there's only 3 in the SEC as well. Regardless, Beamer is not in that group, right? Beamer, as you know, going into last season, massive struggles, not only against ranked opponents, but also on the road as well. And I think going into last season, he was 2-10, and South Carolina was 2-10 under him in SEC road games. And what do you know? He turns that around pretty quickly. He goes 3-1. Only loss was on the road against Alabama. Every win they had felt like it was like a drubbing of whoever they played. So that changed very quickly last season. Also, his record against ranked opponents. You look at his overall record. He's 29-22 since he's been at South Carolina. 15 of those 22 losses have come against ranked opponents. Not making excuses for him, but I mean, that's, it's 2/3 of your overall losses came against good teams. The wins, though, he's 7-15 overall against ranked teams, right? He's had 4 of those 7 come in the last season. I'm talking about turning the corner. And I didn't know this, but you want to talk about the way to finish off a season, a game, like finishing the right way, finishing on a high note, like finishing a long ass season as successfully as you can. And we listen, I'm not just talking about the fact they won 6 straight games to close last year. People forget that they didn't play any ranked opponents or anybody in 2023 in the month of November. They did in 2022 when they beat Tennessee and Clemson. They also did last year, and they had four teams that were ranked at the time they played them in the month of November. Shane Beamer and South Carolina are 6-0. 6-0 against ranked teams in the month of November over the last 3 seasons. 6-0. So, again, I go back to that comment from the anonymous coach in one of those preseason magazines, which was the back end of that schedule is brutal. I don't think anybody could survive that. Not only have they been surviving that, I mean, they have been dominating to close out the final month of the season. And I don't know if they're going to do that again this year. They're going to play a Clemson team at home that's going to be very, very good. They also have several other teams in that month that are going to be difficult. But it's not any more difficult than it was last year, and the schedule is always the schedule. So I thought that was interesting considering where Beamer ranked, especially in only 4 years as the head coach for his winning percentage in that specific stat. Tomorrow, we're going to dive into more of that, and we're going to do a deep dive on the 3 most important things that South Carolina has to improve on if they want to compete for a college football playoff spot this year. 3 most important things. Stats galore. Get excited. So make sure you join tomorrow. We will also have a special guest on later this week as well, SEC StatCat, Clark Brooks. So hope you guys join us for that. Hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday. Hopefully we'll talk tomorrow and celebrate Noah Clark committing to South Carolina. Until then, go Cox.